Hello, my name is William Kumwembe and this is the Cauldron, where editors meet. Each week we gather top editors from various newsrooms in the country to discuss topical issues that are making headlines in the country, and we also go international to discuss issues that have a bearing in as far as our day-to-day endeavors are concerned. And also we go to the newsroom segment where we discuss issues that are related to how we journalists conduct our day-to-day duties. And this week I'm joined in the studios by Mibawa. Mibawa is news editor at the Blantyre Synod Radio. Welcome to the program, Mibawa.
Thank you.
It's Korea.
Very.
I was about to say no. Maybe that end it's not as cold as this end is.
It's even worse than here.
Whoa. Much ado about so little on 6.2 billion kwacha. That's our first story in the first segment of the program. The 6.2 billion COVID funds abuse saga came with drama of high-sounding statements from political podiums and authorities, with a number of interdictions declared on public podium, as I was already alluded to, and then followed by arrests. Now it is over a week since the government recalled district commissioners and chief executive officers from interdiction, but it appears so clear that there is no clear direction in terms of manning this whole issue. Much ado about so little on the 6.2 billion COVID saga, isn't it?
It was a question of populism, I believe. You know, you posture around and then the people say action is being done. It's quite unfortunate because even those who were arrested at the Dodma, all of them, I think most of them were acquitted. They had no case. The DCs are back in the office. So what was the point of all that posturing?
How would you rate the government's effort in not only bringing the perpetrators to book, but also recovering the lost funds?
Those who were arrested, most of them were found they actually had to repay. The ombudsman had told them to repay. They repaid even before they were arrested. Those who are suspected to have stolen the real money, they're still out there. The only real casualty, I believe, was the former Minister of Labour. But then the president also vindicated him at a public podium, saying maybe he acted hastily in actually removing him from cabinet. So really, it was just a pointless exercise when you look at it.
Was thorough scrutiny done prior to coming to the public?
It was a question of wanting to be seen to be doing something, because the people were very angry at that time. And as Malawians, that's what we do. We talk a lot on social media, and then we were very happy when the arrests were starting, and the police were saying we're on the ground making more arrests, as if it was something. It was entertainment for that time. And then it's gone.
Entertainment, Bao?
Yeah. Because we were saying who is going to be arrested this week. And we were hoping for the big fish. Unfortunately, as I said, there was only one major casualty in that. So we don't know what direction this is going to take.
Talking about arrests, precisely 62 were arrested according to police publicist James Kadadzera. But no file as of last week had been brought to the attention of the Office of Director of Public Prosecution for legal advice and direction. What does it all indicate? It
exactly says what I was saying, that this was just posturing. You know, give them a little something. Arrest the people, you know that they'll stay in jail for 2 weeks. People are happy that people are sleeping in jail in the cold weather, and then it just dies down. Remember, even among the 62, we know very few of them. For the first time, the Malawi Police Service was not giving us the names. Why was that? This is something that has never happened. These were public funds. Why were they hiding some names?
What does it all portray, if I'm to put it in that context?
A lack of seriousness.
On whose end?
Taking Malawians for granted.
On whose end?
On the government side. I don't know, it's like taking us for granted that we'll give them just a little, let them see that we're biting. But we are all watching. We are following up. You know that the 62 haven't gone to court, meaning that everyone knows. So what was the point?
But when you talk of the government, Mao, they are entities. There is in this case, the Directorate of Public Prosecution. There is the police itself. There is the Auditor General's Office and other law enforcing agents. The Anti-Corruption Bureau, for instance.
The Auditor General did their part. They released that report. The police, maybe they should have waited before just arresting people en masse without actually finding out if they really had a case against them. Because most of those people, they'll even sue for unlawful arrest. They'll sue the government and it will end up actually spending more money than it should have.
You're saying the police should have waited a little, done some thorough investigation before arrests. It appears this is not the first time the police has taken that step. What's at stake here?
That is why it's very important to act on facts instead of politics, because this was purely political. The president was angry and they felt that they had to be seen to be acting. So they'll just pick the nearest, the easiest to pick, and then they'll throw them in jail. There's no case against them, they're out. And I'm sure they must be boiling with anger out wherever they are. Their reputations were ruined. Some livelihoods were lost. Some have even, just imagine that experience of staying in jail. It's something that can stay with you forever. And then for what? For no reason. What was the point of that?
Do the systems and structures do enough in as far as investigating prior to arrest is concerned?
At that time, I think the time that the directive was issued that the heads must roll, some had already been arrested, those from the Dodma, because of the blow-up on social media. Everyone was talking about it. And I think also as Malawians, sometimes we are to blame, because we focus so much on the arrest, we focus so much on people when we don't know the real facts on the ground. We don't work in those offices which were implicated. We don't know the systems they use in funding their activities. But we just assume that because they used part of this money, it must be stolen. So sometimes the police and even us as Malawians, we should learn to be patient and realize that we are not privy to some of the things that happen internally in offices. So let's rather wait and see what they do themselves, the ones who are implicated in that.
If I were to paraphrase your view or your statement, Bao, would I be wrong if I say you're trying to say Malawians sometimes, if not most of the times, major and minors?
The last time you and I spoke, I believe I said that maybe there can only be one leader at a time, and they can also, I cannot police your office. I don't know what happens in your office. The facts will just come out. William was saying such and such a thing on TV. I don't know what went on behind the scenes for you to actually get on TV and speak about something. As an outsider looking in, I'm not privy to most of the things that happen. So it is not fair for me to say that these people stole money. I mean, nobody just walked into the office of the accountant and demanded money. There were procedures for that. And I'm sure there were justifications. What wasn't justified, they paid back. But now, the taxpayer, you and I, will lose more money. Because I can assure you, I have heard from very reliable sources that those who were arrested are going to sue.
But one would assume to say the pressure was intense to an extent that the government had just to do something. Do you agree with the notion? And an extension to that, was that something rightly done?
You know, you cannot govern by fearing demonstrations. Because at that time, they had been given an ultimatum of 1 week, I believe. So if you don't arrest these people, we'll go to the street. And then after they were arrested, it quietened down. But you cannot be governing under pressure like that. And there are also procedures for going to the street. You don't just go to the street over everything. Who is leading the nation?
Do you therefore agree with assertions by some political commentators who are saying the arrests were but a political gimmick?
Yeah, they were.
What could have been done best, Mbao, if I'm to pose it to you?
The police and the other investigators should have investigated that report by the Auditor General. Go and find out properly before making baseless arrests, which will lead us nowhere.
Let's now move a little bit and talk about the narrative regarding the COVID fund mismanagement or management, whatever would love to call it. There are concerns that the narrative around the saga has given some public institutions, the local councils precisely, a bad name, although a majority of them seem to be off the book.
You know, this thing is about smokes and mirrors. We're talking about the 6.2 billion, conveniently forgetting the 19 billion. And that is exactly what you're supposed to do, that you focus on the minors, as you say, instead of focusing on the real thing. Because 19 billion is a lot of money. So that 6 billion, I'm sure those who have been vindicated, those who are back in office, they've accounted for it because they cannot just go back into office when they're still guilty. So you are focusing on the wrong thing, actually.
How about those that, in this context, have had their names dented, and apparently they seem to be vindicated?
That is exactly the point that I'm going back to. That is, these people, they are going to get even more money. If they chewed a bit of 100,000 out of the 6 billion, they'll get millions now as compensation for defamation of character. So it was really an exercise in futility. The whole exercise should have been handled very differently from the way it was.
How different, Mibawa? How different?
I'll still say that at least you don't just make arrests or based on allegations on social media. Do thorough research, investigate properly. And even you and I, we don't work for the police, but we say the police should go and arrest so and so. And as I said, these are internal matters in internal offices. We don't know how things operate in there. So we cannot just dictate from the comfort of our phones. Most of us are keyboard warriors. On the ground, we know nothing.
But we believe, Mibawa, that democracy is about government for the people and by the people. Is it not democracy at its best?
There is a certain line that must be crossed for democracy not to become anarchy now. Or even mob rule, because everyone wants to say something. How many people is someone going to listen to if they're going to govern? There are 18 million of us. All of us have got different opinions. Even the one leading us also has to have his own opinion, and at the end of the day, make proper decisions.
But one would still assume no harm to put across your opinion, regardless of how the opinion would be reacted to.
Yeah, you're free to express your opinion, yes. But that doesn't mean that the government has to take each and every Jim and Jack's opinion. Then it's an anarchy situation. We are no longer, it's not even a democracy. It's a question of now everyone, each for mob rule, actually. Yeah.
Let's look at the entire issue. What does it entail in as far as our fight against graft, corruption, and what have you is concerned?
Most of it is mere rhetoric. You stand on a podium, you speak very nicely, and the people will say, oh yes, this was very good. And then you go back home and then life goes on the way we know it as Malawians.
Are you portraying that as a country, Mibawa, we are not anywhere near winning the fight against corruption, against fraud, against graft?
Sadly, I wouldn't say we are. Looking at the fact that all these arrests we have seen, apart from the 6.2 billion thing, we've seen people getting arrested. They're in court for various issues of corruption. But at the very same time, the people in the new dispensation, they're busy doing the very same things that the others were accused of. We are seeing those things. Maybe 5-6 years down the line, they'll be the ones in court. But you could feel that somebody with their normal senses would know that what I'm doing is exactly what that other one did, and they're in trouble now because of what they did then.
Turning the malpractice should be in the best interest of every Malawian. What do we need to do?
It's a collective effort, and I believe that all of us individually need some soul searching. Because we are saying, some of us who are a bit older, we've seen how the standards have gone down. And there are those who are even much, much older than some of us. They know there was a time when the standards were very good. It was a one-party rule, yes, but the standard of life and everything else, at least it was more orderly. But nowadays it's about who has the money. If you don't have the money, you cannot access even the health services. You need to bribe somebody in the hospitals to access something. Road traffic, you know what you need to do. All those things. It's like we are now in a state of life where anything goes, so long as whatever you want matters, happens. And it's a very selfish way of living without thinking about the next person. And imagine the poorest of the poor who don't have the resources, even a little bit, to bribe just those small bribes. Even on the roads, we're seeing so many accidents because unroadworthy vehicles are there on the roads. It's all something that looks very small, but then on a larger scale, it's ruining our country, and our future is very doubtful.
Others, that's Let me take it that way. Our future is very doubtful. Would we elaborate before I pose the next question?
Yeah, it's a sad world we live in, where if you want to access basic services, you have to pay some sort of a bribe, and you know there's no money out there. Everyone knows that now. We are all striving to get the little that we can, and if wherever you go you have to pay a little something, at the end of the day, what do you have? Then we have more crime, we have more mob justice, all because of things like that.
Others feel, in fact most, feel that we, the people in the communities, in the offices, are the ones who are shielding thieves. What could we do about it? Because we're talking of a person who is a brother to someone, someone who is a husband, a wife, and then to an extent that people are left with no option but to shield them when they clearly know that this person is in the wrong.
That is exactly what I was saying, that this is a very selfish way of life that we have nowadays. We look at me and my nuclear family, and then family, extended family. We think of ourselves first as a family instead of looking at the community and as the country as a whole.
In other words, it wouldn't be as easy for a wife to say, I'm suspecting my husband is...
Unless something is very wrong between the two of them. She wouldn't say anything.
Any hope in that context, Mibawa? Because if we talk of fighting corruption, fighting graft and what have you, is about one raising a flag. And that one who can raise a flag can't raise it.
It would only happen if collectively we decided that we love this country, instead of loving our own families and our own stomachs. But if we really, really were patriotic and decided that we want to fix this country, and there were serious penalties for that, definitely things would change.
A new bloom at the Anti-Corruption Bureau. Any hope?
We are yet to see. She's already coming at a time when the resources are few. I understand funding has been cut by 14%, so it's a hard struggle, but from the way she performed at the Ombudsman's office, there is hope.
Let's talk about cut of funds to such institutions a little bit. ACB, you're saying 14%. The Auditor General's office, there is also another cut. What does it portray in as far as our fight against corruption is concerned?
We don't have the will to do it, because almost everyone is doing the very same thing. And they know that if this person or this office becomes too powerful, we ourselves, the ones funding it, will be the victims of it at the end of the day. And nobody wants to be a victim of anything.
Some have even reached a level of saying, beyond human characters, let's build resilient systems. Have we done enough in building resilient systems to fight corruption as a country?
On that one, we'll have to wait for that report, which we're all waiting for, to see the suggested reforms. Maybe in that one there are suggestions that would actually help this country. But since we are not privy to what was written in that one, we just have to wait.
When I'm with you, Mibawa, I love to be hypothetical. I'm comfortable to be hypothetical, frankly. Let's be hypothetical. If you were a part of the team that were crafting the reforms report, what would you recommend as a way forward in as far as building resilient systems to fight corruption in the country?
It would begin with the individual, every individual Malawian. You should know that there are consequences. I would say that maybe the judiciary should be strengthened, and I believe it is being, to ensure that the punishments meted out on those who want to steal our country's resources are really serious, and they are meted out. Because if you're rich enough, you can have a lawyer and you can delay your case by 5-10 years. Yeah, and at the end you can even declare a mistrial, and then that's it. So it's all about who has the best lawyers, and that is a very unfortunate scenario, but it happens across the whole world.
Should I pose another one? Another hypothetical one.
Go ahead.
We are not going to talk about the United States of America. We will remain in the context of Malawi. Talking of the Anti-Corruption Bureau, going forward, what do we expect of the Anti-Corruption Bureau in as far as fighting graft is concerned?
For that one, I'm expecting the best, actually. As I said, the one at the helm now, the way she performed at the Ombudsman, it gives us a lot of hope. But it is not a one-man show. It's a question of cooperation with those she works with. So she might have the fire, she might be vibrant enough, but if there is no support, then at the end of the day, both she and us as Malawians will be very frustrated.
There is another issue, contentious as it might be, about 17.6 billion kwacha. You made mention of it earlier on. From the 6.2 billion kwacha issue, how should we learn? What should we learn that we can handle it, if at all there is that room for handling it, the next issue?
It's not a fight for one man, because even for the 6 billion, I think there were only like 2 or 3 people who were really in the forefront, fighting for the information to come out. But if we collectively did it together as Malawians, maybe something would come out. But we cannot just say, oh, this guy is a very good social commentator. When he starts a fight, it makes it is not for one person. This is not just one person's country. It's for all of us.
Last but not least, Mibawa, should we look forward to a day when some people would fly into the country and then they are welcomed with a standing out billboard, say, Malawi, welcome to Malawi, a corrupt-free zone?
I doubt. It's not possible. Nowhere. It's not possible across the whole world. It cannot happen.
It cannot happen.
Maybe in Rwanda, to a certain larger extent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but then in such countries you find that, or maybe North Korea, you know that you face the firing squad if you do that, or communist China. But here I don't see that happening.
How about a scenario whereby it is as minimal as possible?
That is workable, but you need a dictator at the helm. In this so-called democracy you're talking about, that cannot happen.
Let's leave it there for now. This is the Cauldron, where editors meet. We'll be right back. We are going into the second segment of the program, and this is the international segment. US eases travel rules for 61 countries, but not the UK. And in the studios, I'm joined by Mbawa Chakwera. Mbawa is news editor at the Blantyre Synod Radio. Mbawa, we are going international, and precisely your favorite country, the United States.
Not anymore.
Come on.
Not
Governments
anymore.
change.
All right.
That shouldn't even affect how you feel about a country. Anyway, not anymore. I wouldn't push you to like it anymore. The US has eased travel restrictions for many countries as the rollout of coronavirus vaccine continues. Its public health agency updated its criteria on Monday, which saw 61 countries lowered from a level 4 avoid all travel rating. Countries easing and vaccination uptake picking up. Are we seeing light at the end of the tunnel in as far as the fight against COVID is concerned?
It is. Like you said, in the US, life is almost back to normal for those who've been vaccinated. Mm-hmm. And I'm surprised that the UK is not on that list, because the UK is also vaccinated quite a lot of its citizens. They're now going to the younger ones, but quite a large percentage has gotten the jab.
But the third wave has hit some parts of the world, including countries within our borders, within our region. Should we still feel the outlook remains mixed and murky?
I believe governments are realizing that life cannot be at a standstill forever. Looking at the opening up of the airspaces, like even the UK, they say these are the red countries. So it's not like they've shut them off entirely. They just say you are from the red zone. When you get to Heathrow, you go through this aisle, instead of actually saying, don't come. Mm-hmm. Because they realize that you cannot, this is a global village now. So everything we do depends on the next country. And even the World Bank has said that this is now it's an economic matter. And the resources, they come from countries like us, from the DRC. So if you shut up forever, you also ruin your own big economies.
Mm-hmm. From a general perspective, globally, should we say we have learned how to live with the pandemic?
Slowly but surely, I believe we are. Because there was a time, William, even you and I wouldn't be here, we were just fearing each other.
Oh, yeah.
You move around, you find there are very few people on the streets, but go out now, you find traffic is almost back to normal. And it was something very strange, because we've been so used to very little traffic on the roads. So at the end of the day, it's a question of personally looking after yourself, go get vaccinated if you must, but life must go.
Should we tout it on the vaccination alone, or some interventions have been made as well?
Maybe a bit of immunity has also been reached, but we are also very careful. You remember the issue of the Chilima sugar. We don't know how they found themselves in the country, but the moment it was clear that these people are in the country, there was an outcry, and the Ministry of Health had to rush in and do something about it urgently. So I believe we are our brother's keeper. We are also very watchful about who does what, who is next to me.
Now that you've brought in the issue of the Chilima sugar, you've pushed me back home, away from the US. Back home, we seem to have relaxed a bit in as far as fighting the pandemic is concerned. Even uptake of the vaccine, we seem not to be there yet. What is really the problem with us, if I know it's a problem?
It is. The biggest thing you have to understand is that most of us, we live hand to mouth. I have to get out of my house. I'll just leave my family and say, I'm coming to find something for today. The ones in the markets, the ones who work, all of us, we are hoping for cash. We don't have savings as such. So it's a daily hand to mouth kind of living. So people are very happy that the government has opened up. At least some can go and MC somewhere at a wedding. Somebody can, so things which seem very small. She'll go, a woman will go into the market and sell her tomatoes for 1,000 kwacha. She has food for her children on that day. So it wasn't very easy for us to be shut down, to be fearing one another. So it's a question of saying, and unfortunately, or should I say fortunately, we are no longer dying as we used at the beginning of the year. So maybe people have indeed relaxed.
So it's not a matter of I don't care, but it's a matter of survival. I still have to survive.
It's about survival.
But if it's about survival, why are we shunning the vaccine?
It's also a warped way of thinking that it's about survival too, because I've seen something circulating, people saying that those who took the vaccine will be dead within 2 years. So it's all about self-preservation, although wrap around manner.
Should we call it a myth?
I don't know. I got my vaccine.
Wow.
Yeah.
I fancy you. But honestly, Mibawa, someone saying they would die in 2 years for fear of, that is putting him at a more risk than 2 years from now. What's really at the back of our minds
that is
as a country? Or is something that we can't even start to explain?
You cannot explain because nobody knows when they're going to die anyway. So you say you die in 2 years, supposing the one writing is the one who is going to die. It really doesn't make any sense. But people don't really want to think for themselves. They'd rather let their religious leaders think for them and tell them what to do, because most of this is stemming from religion. If you look at the US, as you were saying, life is almost back to normal. They're even moving around without a mask so long as they're vaccinated fully.
Should we fault religion? I'll put it a little hard on you, Mibawa. Should we fault religion for people's perception towards things like vaccination?
Yes, we should.
How about culture?
Nowadays, religion has infiltrated almost every part of society. You find people are building their churches wherever you go. And most of these don't have any sound doctrine, because it's not the major churches which are focusing on the vaccine and saying, actually the major churches are encouraging their faithful to go and get a vaccine. But it is those churches which somebody just dreams up and says, wakes up today and says, God called me in the dream. I'm now a prophet, I'm now a what? These are the ones who are now leading a lot of people astray.
What's the way forward for the country? Should the country just let the situation be, or an intervention should be taken?
In Rwanda, the president actually shut down churches and mosques. And you have to have some kind of basic education to actually run a church. Like I said, the mainstream churches in here, they've been to college. Our leaders have been to college. Some have got even PhDs, because they learn logic, they learn so many things. But for somebody to just say, I was cold, fine, some are really cold, but then how sound is their doctrine?
But would we say, Mibawa, we might have heard somewhere whereby the men of the cloth, who are custodians of the dogma, have stood in front of congregation to say, thou shalt not?
We have, but not the mainstream churches. I've heard that from the other side.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what does the future hold if this is the country that we have in as far as fighting the pandemic? What does the future
You know, at some point, the government will have to step in and to put a check on religion. And I'm specifically saying religion, not belief and prayer. But when you look at somebody who has decided to take religion to the next level and brainwash people and lead them astray, it is up to the government to step in and say enough is enough.
I wish we had a man of the collar to debate this issue. It's getting a little delicate, but let's break a lead. So, this is the Cauldron where editors meet. We'll be right back. And this is the Cauldron where editors meet, and we're getting into the final mile of the marathon, managing people's feelings when reporting graphic images. We're talking about the newsroom part, where we discuss issues regarding how we journalists should conduct our day-to-day affairs. And let me concede once again, this is the segment I love the most because it borders on my job. With me is Mibawa Chavula. Mibawa is the news editor at the Blantyre Synod Radio. Mibawa, of late we've seen precisely the social media, an influx of graphic pictures and images and what have you regarding, say, an accident. The most recent one was the one involving the presidential convoy, where we saw some soldiers dying, of course. Not so pleasing to discuss about it, but at the same time, we still have to discuss about it. Because when we talk of media, we're not only talking about the traditional media, we're talking about even the social media. People are not as concerned about other people's feelings and emotions.
I find it very strange that journalists are among the most criticized people, but everyone wants to be a journalist. Everyone wants to be the first one to break a story. You know, the time that accident happened, I was moving around to Nyambado Road. I was going home. And then you see people just parked their cars on the other side, and everyone was taking pictures. They stopped whatever they were doing. The place was crowded. They were busy taking photos. Those who were helping the people were few, but the rest were just bystanders, ghoulishly taking photos. And then they were throwing them on social media. I was there, as if it is something so to be proud of, that you were there at the scene of the accident where soldiers were involved. Even this morning, I saw a picture of a British man who hung himself in Mangush. And then people were busy circulating the pictures. And as I said, the ones who were circulating, they are the ordinary persons. No mainstream media house actually put that graphic photo. It was just a story.
Yeah, because on that day, I deliberately or purposefully surfed through Facebook pages of almost all key media houses in the country.
They didn't have those photos.
Those photos were
graphic parts. We saw the car which had overturned, yes. But there were some people who were actually showing bodies.
Should we blame the non-journalists for pushing these images across?
Yeah, you know, for some reason, people want to be very famous. And they want to be the ones. There are some social media champions now. You don't know them, but you hear their names because on social media they're very well known. So they want to break the news, and everyone else also wants to have the same name as those people. Say, he's a champion of social media. She is a champion of social media. I don't know what they gain out of that.
Maybe number of likes.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're living for likes nowadays. But then you want people to like because you've put a graphic photo of dead soldiers. Of a dead man who killed himself. Do you think about the other person? Do you think about their family? So it is really very sad that we've reached this level where we can do anything for likes.
What does it portray of, number one, us as our customs and responsibilities? Number two, our reception of the concept of social media as a country? Some
psychiatrist, I think he said that social media has given people a chance to be who they really are. Because I cannot be who I am now, and then on social media I'll go and be posting nudes. That means it is something that is inside of me, but I'll just put on what do we call it, shigoba. You become a troll on social media, and then you You can say what is really deep inside your mind. You're failing to say it face to face, but on social media, you can go and insult William the way you want because you've always wanted to do that. I cannot insult you if I don't want to insult you. If I wanted to, I would do it right here in your face, but then I'll go and put on, you go on social media and then insult you. Write so many bad things about you. What is that? It is really me, the real me who is inside, who has been failing to have an outlet.
Should we say social media has come to stay and literally there is nothing we can do about it?
Macra must do something about it. I believe some people have been sued. Here, not so many, but I know in South Africa there are some celebrities who've actually been suing people now who just write whatever they want. You know, so and so because she's famous, and then you write whatever you want. So somebody has been sued for 500,000 rand, and the people are taking notice that they can really be sued for being keyboard warriors. So hopefully such trends should trickle down here because there's a lot of defamation on social media.
The traditional media is principled. I owe no apology for saying this. Is principled and is governed by ethics. Would a similar approach work on the social media?
I believe in Zambia they've tried. They're trying. There's a law now. Whatever you say, you insult somebody, you go to jail. Of course, I haven't actually seen anyone actually being arrested for that. But the people, you can see from the comments that they fear just saying whatever they wanted to say. So if that came here, I believe it would really help us.
We need a special regulation?
Yes. And maybe a dedicated team at Macra and wherever to take out such things and make sure that the culprits are brought to book. Maybe we'll have a bit more sanity. Yeah.
What does the future, I think I would have to ask this in the context of the role of the traditional media. What is the role of the traditional media in all this?
I believe we should continue giving out the news the way we're trained, because we actually went to school for it. And we're not competing with Facebook warriors who decided that they want to be famous. We're doing this as a calling, as a job. But the other ones are doing it for fame and likes. There's a very big difference in the motivation.
Would we say they're in competition with themselves?
Yeah, because no matter what, you still find that the major stories, people will say, has it been on NBC, has it been on Times, has it been on Zodiac, meaning that they still trust the mainstream ones.
How should we guard our trust and the confidence that is there out there?
And continue being as professional as always.
Continue being as professional as always. Thank you so very much, Mibawa.
Thank you.
Today we haven't talked anything about the former US
Don't
president.
even say it.
On that, don't even say it note, we've also come to the end of today's edition of the program, The Cauldron, where editors meet. My name is William Kumwembe. On behalf of the entire production team, bye for now.
Sometimes
stating the obvious
is your only choice.
Times Television.
Times Television.
Times Television is Miss Malawi
Television Station of the Year.
6 years.
6 years.
6 years in a row. And we salute all our viewers
As well as advertisers.
For the unwavering support.
And we ignore all unnecessary noise
To give you best value
for your money and time.
We rule.
We rule.
We rule the media kingdom in Malawi.
pamene wena amati kanthu nkhama wena amati mwayi suphonya mwini peza ni mphoto za nkhaninkhani mu mpikisano wa changu pamalo promotion ndi Times Radio komanso Times TV. tumizani message yolemba changu ku 1895 kuti mukhale ni mwayi owina mphoto zosiyanasiyana kuphatikizapo Mazda Demio. mpikisanowu ulipo mpaka na pa 30 June chaka cha 2021. tumizani ma message ochuluka kuti mwayi wanu uchulukenso. ndondomeko zonse zoyendesera mpikisanowu zidzatsatidwa. It's about time.
Sometimes you just have to die a little inside in order to be reborn and rise again as a stronger and wiser version of you.